Netflix just announced they're making an American version of Squid Game with David Fincher, and it's going to be terrible. The Korean show was amazing because it didn't hold back. It showed us rich, crazy people betting on poor, desperate people dying, and it felt real and scary. But Hollywood always does the same thing when they remake foreign shows. They take out everything that made it special and turn it into safe, boring stuff that won't make anyone uncomfortable. I'm going to show you exactly how they're going to ruin this show. And here's the crazy part. When they make Squid Game safe. So let's start with the games, because this is where it gets really disgusting. Remember red light, green light? That giant doll head spinning around, people getting shot, blood everywhere? Most people just saw a twisted children's game. But if you're Korean, you heard that song. And your blood went cold. That song isn't just some random nursery rhyme. Korean kids sang it while their country was being torn apart in the 60s and 70s. Families got destroyed because parents had to leave for factory jobs. Kids got abandoned. Entire communities got wiped out so Korea could become an economic powerhouse. The flower in that song represents old Korea dying so capitalist Korea could be born. When those adult players hear it, they're not just remembering playing games as kids, they're remembering the exact moment their childhood got sacrificed for economic growth. But what's America going to use? Simon Says? Red light, green light? Some generic playground crap that middle-class suburban kids played for fun? American children's games don't carry trauma, they carry nostalgia. There's a massive difference. Korean viewers see their ancestors getting crushed by capitalism. American viewers will see childhood memories getting weaponized. One is cultural genocide, the other is just creepy. Guess which one we're getting. We already got a preview with Squid Game: The Challenge. Contestants were laughing, high-fiving, treating it like they were on Survivor. Zero existential dread, zero cultural horror. Just reality TV bullshit. And you know what the American version will do? They'll explain everything. Flashbacks of characters playing these games as kids. Voiceovers about innocence lost. Maybe a therapist character spelling out the metaphors for us because God forbid American audiences think for themselves. The original trusted you to get it. The American version will treat you like an idiot. Now let's talk about the Dalgona game, which is pure genius disguised as a simple challenge. In Korea, only poor kids ate this stuff. It's literally sugar and baking soda cooked in a spoon. The cheapest candy you could possibly make. Rich kids had real sweets. Poor kids had Dalgona. When you watch those adults desperately licking the candy to soften it, you're watching grown people revert to survival tactics they learned as hungry children. It's not about cutting shapes, it's about what poverty does to your brain. So, what's the American equivalent? Oreos? Pop-Tarts? Goldfish crackers? None of these represent poverty because American snacks are corporate products marketed to everyone. There's no class shame attached to eating a Pop-Tart. The challenge already did this. Contestants treating it like a fun craft project. Zero connection to economic desperation. Cultural pain became Instagram content. But here's where it gets really twisted. Season 2 has this voting system where players decide whether to continue or quit. Korean viewers immediately recognize this as political commentary because Korean society runs on collective decision-making. The older players vote to continue because they're from the generation that believes suffering builds character, the same people who lived through Korea's economic miracle built on worker exploitation. Younger players want to quit because they're rejecting their parents' sacrifices. It's literally Korean generational politics playing out in real time. These voting scenes are terrifying because they mirror actual Korean democratic processes. Community meetings about selling family land to developers, families deciding whether to take crushing debt for education, workers voting on layoffs to save the company. But Hollywood will turn this into individual moral choice. Good guys vote to leave because they value life. Bad guys vote to stay because they're greedy. All that complex political commentary about collective responsibility? Gone. American storytelling demands that characters make choices based on personal values. But the original's power comes from showing how personal choices mean nothing when the system has you trapped. Korean players aren't voting based on morality. They're voting based on economic desperation that makes leaving just as dangerous as staying. American audiences will see a character test. Korean audiences see systemic critique. Classic American move: turn collective problems into individual failings. And don't get me started on the recruiters in Season 3. In the original, they're terrifyingly normal businessmen doing their jobs. They spot desperate people like predators smell weakness. They don't need complex motivations because they represent capitalism in its purest form. Efficient, ruthless, completely immoral. But Hollywood can't resist giving villains tragic backstories. The American recruiter will probably be a former winner trying to save his sick daughter. Or a reformed addict who understands the player's pain. Some bullshit psychological explanation that completely destroys the point. The recruiter should be scary because he's ordinary, not because he's damaged. American media always tries to explain away systemic evil with individual trauma. But capitalism doesn't need psychological motivation. It just needs profit. Season 3 also shows American VIPs bringing their own players to the games, directly calling out American capitalism's global exploitation. But the American adaptation will flip this, making Americans the victims instead of the perpetrators. Then there's the Glass Bridge game, the ultimate lottery disguised as merit-based competition. Players can't use skill or intelligence to survive. They just have to hope they picked right and everyone else picked wrong. It's capitalism in its purest form. Luck pretending to be merit. The two types of glass look identical, but one shatters under pressure. Perfect metaphor for how capitalism promises equal opportunity while rigging the game. The glass expert's inside knowledge represents how information inequality determines winners and losers. But American versions will add skill elements. Maybe the glass has subtle visual differences smart players can spot. American audiences need to believe intelligence and virtue matter. Pure randomness feels unfair to people raised on meritocracy myths. But unfairness is the point. The Glass Bridge shows that merit-based success is a lie. Hard work and moral choices don't matter when the system is random and rigged by insiders. The challenge made it obviously safe so contestants knew they wouldn't die. No existential terror, no genuine fear of arbitrary death. American media can't recreate real stakes. What connects all of this is the marble games appearing across all seasons. Friends betray friends to survive. Capitalism destroys human connection by forcing natural allies to compete. Korean culture values collective harmony over individual success, so betrayal hits differently. When Song-woo tricks Ali, it's not just personal cruelty. It's cultural values being destroyed by economic necessity. Korean audiences feel this as cultural trauma, but American culture already prioritizes individual competition. Betrayal in the marble games won't feel culturally devastating because Americans expect self-interest over loyalty. The shock disappears when competitive individualism is already normal. Season 3 reveals the international scope with wealthy elites from multiple countries as VIPs. American VIPs are portrayed as the most depraved, representing how American wealth extraction operates globally. They don't just watch, they demand increasingly brutal entertainment. But here's the impossible challenge. How do you critique American capitalism from within the American entertainment system? Netflix can't fund a show that accurately portrays American wealth as the primary driver of global exploitation. We'll get sanitized international critique, corrupt politicians from unnamed countries, or generic global elites without national identity. The pointed criticism of American economic imperialism will become vague anti-wealth sentiment. That's the ultimate horror of American Squid Game. Not that it exists, but that it proves the original was right about everything. The system doesn't fear criticism, it monetizes it. We'll all watch anyway because even neutered Squid Game beats most of what's out there.